Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday in the Riv after a big weekend.
A tumultuous weekend.
Yes, well, that storm was quite the
big words.
Quite the mess, but I hope everybody read the flush. CJ Brigham Young, the man who was instrumental in the Mormon movement. True independence and freedom can only exist in doing what's right. Well, in that case, there's no freedom in Fall River, but we knew that. Then you went on to talk about the dictator. Didn't the city give that building a loan or something for that roof?
I don't know if it was a loan or a grant.
A grant.
Yeah.
Well, what did they do? Pay one of their friends to put 3 nails in it and then leave because the thing blew off.
$5,000 a nail.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, this is, and I really like the part where you talked about how he got everybody down there on Duval Street to clean it up, not only for his little time, but remember his friends are down there.
That's right.
They paved this Duval Street. They moved it up to the top of the queue. When we had hundreds of streets in the city that were a disaster, and by the way, most of them still are a disaster. They did Duval Street as soon as his pal got some property on Duval Street.
That's right.
And then he put the $7 million benches and lights down there.
That's right.
Even though we were getting them for free. Screw it. Let's use $7 million of taxpayer money to put prettier lights than anybody else in. Now we have a spur on the MBTA that's so unimportant that if you wanted to go see the fireworks, you had to go from some other community.
That's right.
You could only get there. So that's how important we are, Paul. Like, this is going to be a major impact to Fall River. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. This is absurd. This is all BS, and it shows again. And another one about he's panicking. He's a panicker. He's panicking a little bit. I guess not enough people decided to run for re-election that were in his pocket. So he convinced one of his pals, who supposedly was not running, to run again.
Right.
Because he said, Tommy, my little echo chamber, I love everybody, Paul, and everybody that Paul likes, I love, and they're all great. And nobody ever does anything wrong, and everything's beautiful. And the sky is not falling, I promise you. I am not chicken little, I am chicken big. So I'm the opposite of everything, the antithesis. So he's pulled papers. So, hey, why don't we just ignominiously boot his ass? Everybody vote for somebody else. Paul is in total panic mode that he is going to have to deal with people on the school committee who are going to hold him accountable. So he's not quite as worried about the city council, but he should be, because let's get the people out there. So it was that storm was quite the, tell you, it's like a monsoon. I went out to bring some stuff in, and the rain was blowing sideways. The wind was so strong. Yeah, you're right, George. I agree. Ann Riley was a candidate for superintendent of schools. She was the candidate, I believe, that the FREA wanted.
That's right.
She was the people's candidate. But
Yes,
again,
he
we
was.
got the politician superintendent, not the
That's
people
right. The
superintendent.
one that kisses Paul's ass.
Yes, we got a superintendent who doesn't even know her job, accuses a school committeeman of coercion and intimidation when he's asking for
Extortion.
numbers. Now, I don't know, maybe it's me, but I do have a fairly good reading comprehension level. She We've read numerous times about how fiduciaries, elected officials, are required to look deeper into numbers. Yet we have them on video at meetings saying you can't have the numbers, you don't need the numbers, just shut up and vote. That's a that's a crime. You are not obeying your fiduciary. You're not living up to your fiduciary responsibility. We've read it numerous times about how public fiduciaries have a greater responsibility because of taxpayer money. And you got a superintendent that says, "No, you stop bothering me. You're harassing me by asking me for numbers. Just shut up and vote. I'll get somebody else and put them on it that'll nod their head and rubber stamp it." Well, like I said, I'm writing a pretty comprehensive complaint about all of them, about approving taxpayer expenditures without even looking at the numbers. Let's take the dictator's word as you've described him. I'm glad you don't even use his name anymore. I guess that's his new name.
No, I could not, in good conscience, use that name. Every time I want to put it in the flush, I want to vomit.
Yeah. You go, pop!
Exactly.
But we've got some candidates out there, by the middle of, just past the middle of the month, which is approaching quickly. We are going to have the papers in. We'll see who gets their signatures, and we will get those candidates on, especially the new candidates. I think we're going to prioritize the people who have not been. But I agree, George. I vetted her exhaustively. CJ and I vetted her when she was a superintendent candidate. She was a superintendent of schools in another school district that had a very, very good educational attainment. Isn't that correct, CJ?
No question about it. As a matter of fact, okay, like I have said, the FREA wanted her, parents wanted her. She came from a system that was in good condition. And she was overlooked because she wouldn't play ball with Paul. Okay? Because when you don't play with Paul's balls, you don't get anything.
I do not believe Mimi is running. She hasn't pulled papers as
No,
far
she
as
hasn't pulled papers as of yet.
Yeah. But
And,
maybe
but
she needs her. Maybe they're on the counter at the elections office waiting for her, but she's got to get her step ladder.
Anna's running in Fall River, and Kyle just became superintendent of a school system in New Hampshire.
Wow.
Talk about a long distance relationship. I mean, I remember when he was on Block Island. Remember that?
Yeah. But talk about a commitment in that family to education.
Yes.
Think about that. Both he and his wife have been committed to educational attainment their whole life. So heaven forbid that's the kind of superintendent we put in. Let's do an exhaustive search and see if we can find somebody worse than this superintendent. Maybe we can find Matt Malone's brother.
Yeah, you never know.
Somebody. It's like Fall River makes a concentrated effort to get people who are incompetent and well, I'm not really familiar with their family. I know they have some children and stuff, but I mean, I knew Kyle a little bit when he ran for things, and I knew him from when he was a little politically active. I did meet him, but I mean, CJ and I went over those candidates when she was up for superintendent of schools. But listen, this is not new. I lasted 2 meetings on the search committee for superintendent years ago when the only candidate without a PhD and without any experience was already preordained to be selected as the superintendent of schools because he was politically an ally. And I quit at the second meeting. I walked in and said, I resigned from the committee. And they said, "Oh, what do you mean you resigned?" And I said, "Listen, it was pretty obvious after our first meeting that you already have the." "Well, no, we're going to go through a problem. We're going to vet them all. We're going to question them all." I said, "Don't give me that crap." And then I had the former president of Bristol Community College that time, Sprague, give me a hard time. And he said, "Well, if you don't do that, you're not being fair. You should at least give the process a chance." I said, "I'm not going to give the process a chance because the process is nothing more than a sham. It's just a comedy of errors." And I said, "What do you think? I may have been born at night, but it wasn't last night." I said, "If I stay for this whole process and you bozos all vote for the guy that has the least qualifications and I vote against him, what you're going to say is, listen, he's just sour grapes. It's sour grapes. He didn't like this guy from the get-go. And it's not that I didn't like him. I know him. As an individual, I was good. I was okay with him. But he was the least qualified candidate." He said, "You're going to say that he had it, but he's just pissed off because we didn't select the candidate that he wanted." And I said, "But now I'm going to leave, and I'm going to call the superintendent selection before this committee has its second meeting. And then when you elect them, I can say, you see, they got the guy that I said they were going to get, the guy with the least qualifications. And they're doing it again." And that was decades ago. Decades ago. That was part of the Fall River Regional Task Force's Educational 2000 initiative that created the plan to build all the new schools in those days that, by the way, we paid for without debt overrides.
Without a debt exclusion.
That's it. Without a debt exclusion, we paid for all those schools, but we had a list of all the schools that were going to be rebuilt, and we were going to pay for them without any debt override, debt exclusion, by whatever you call imposing an additional burden on a taxpayer. But then because I was on that committee, they said, "Well, we want you on the search committee for the superintendent." And like I said, I didn't last on that thing. But this is the way things are done in Fall River. Paul is in a total panic. It's like he's told, put the picture up, CJ. You got it in the queue. Pick up. They resurrected a candidate from the old days, a dinosaur.
How many dinosaurs do you want?
The sleeping. There he is. The guy that he's almost a poster child for a political tick. He's had a job in his city as long as he's been around, and he just bounces. Housing authority, city, interim city administrator, back to the housing authority, back over here, stick them over here, stick them over there. That's what they do. The ticks that never go away. They get a job because they're politically connected, and then they disappear. They stay on forever, and they get a retirement. By the way, isn't one of our pals who fits into that category, Faust? Where is he hiding lately? We haven't talked about him in how many administrations now? How many years?
Faust is still hiding in minimum housing.
Okay.
Getting a nice big fat paycheck. Okay. And we see him maybe once a year, sometimes twice a year, when they're knocking a building down.
Okay.
But according to Paul and according to Mike Dion, he's doing a fabulous job.
Of course. He was doing a fabulous job when he got appointed from when his only qualification was he was politically connected. That
was the Jason Carrera administration.
Yeah. And but he was on Resuck It Radio too, right?
That's right.
with his partner who's back on. Somebody told me because I never listen to We Suck at Radio. You know
Neither
that.
do I.
He's back on. He's back on We Suck at Radio again. His partner, Wayne. He's got an afternoon show, so they never go away. These ticks. They're kind of like Nancy Pelosi, and the rest of the ticks up there. They last forever.
Well, we've made this comment several times before. We might as well make it again. Politics, coming from the words poly meaning many and ticks meaning bloodsuckers. There you go.
There you go. That's right. A very appropriate name. Very appropriate name. But the only thing that changes are the names of the ticks that are embedded in that flea tick-ridden dog that they call government. You got to feel bad for the dog. You got to give the dog some next guard to get rid of those ticks and the next guard is the vote. People got to vote some people in. Non-incumbents. We have to have a wave of non-incumbents, and the only incumbents that should be getting reelected, you can count on one hand and have fingers left over. Let me see. One. There's going to be 3 left. So there's the third finger. There it is. So, but this weekend was a classic example. Fireworks and asking for help for cleanup and everything else while the city goes to shit. There was a drive-by shooting, by the way.
Yes, there was.
There was a drive-by shooting, but really nobody heard about it. They waited over 24 hours to even release the details. Not important for the public to realize that there were bullets flying on Plymouth Avenue. Only one of the busiest thoroughfares in the city of Fall River.
Who would receive your vote for DA in the next year's election? Former City Administrator Seth Aikens or DA Tom Quinn? Seth Aikens has 40% of the vote.
Oh yeah, he's got the qualifications. He's dishonest. He's a lawyer that has no ethics. He had to run away before he got his law license pulled, and now he wants to be a district attorney. That sounds like a real good plan. Well, I'm going to tell you, who would I vote for? None of the above.
That's right. I don't need Tammany Hall again.
I don't have much use for Quinn. He's politically connected. We've had all kinds of problems with that DA's office getting information, suppressing information, not releasing information to the media. I got a problem with both of them. Aikens, as far as I'm concerned, shouldn't have a law license.
No, he
let
shouldn't.
alone be district attorney. He shouldn't even have a law license.
That's right.
After what he did. But of course, like they always do, Paul lets them just run off into the sunset and retire. We're not going to pursue criminal charges, even though they did something that was illegal. We're just going to let them disappear. Because someday, and if I do that, they might rat me out with some of the bad stuff that I did. So this is the way it runs in politics. And therein lies the problem. And, you can't drain the swamp without getting rid of the swamp creatures. Now, it's going to be a giant ice age again. And we've got to get people to the polls. And remember, like I said, you notice how little publicity that little thing got, except to tell people, well, if you want to go to the fireworks up in Boston, you're going to have to go, you're going to have to come back and drive up to Taunton or go to Middleborough or go anywhere but Fall River because you can't get back. They'll drop you off up there and hope you never should come back. That's the end of it. That's how efficient this thing is. I mean, it's an absolute disgrace. And every day that goes by that you go down there and see the horror show that thing's become, it's been a horror show for decades, and how clueless they bought that Kool-Aid to buy it. And we have Nelson on commenting, and Nelson and Colin watches most of the time. They did a great job.
Yeah.
They did a great job in bringing. We bitched about it too, but they had a great presentation with videos and newspaper articles highlighted in a PowerPoint. I'll tell you, people just, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And I don't know how long they're going to keep buying this. What should be happening now is you should put a PowerPoint together. Some candidates should take a page from their book,
Yeah.
put a put a PowerPoint presentation together of what we went over on the other show. Uh, Look at the budget. Have a slide with the budget that we had when Paul took office. Then have a giant one in red of the new budget that's more than double. Then bring all these things that we showed with the $1 million contracts, 798,862,000, 931,000, 1,000,000, 1.8 million. So, I mean, this is what they pay people to clean our ducts, and we saw the pictures of the ducts. These people don't do their job. Taxpayers pay the money, and it says in their contract that that's what they got hired for. It said cost for support, HVAC support, and maintenance. Is this the result of your maintenance? That's the result of the maintenance. $1 million. That's what somebody who's running for office should have, a PowerPoint presentation with all these things.
I agree.
Showing you.
We got a couple of
what we
comments.
think.
We got a couple of comments on YouTube. When is the city finally going to clean up the graffiti off the buildings on Pleasant Street and downtown? When donkeys fly and pigs grow wings.
When they buy five more graffiti removing machines. Didn't we
That's
buy
right. They're
one
going to
of
buy
those
those machines
idiotic
first.
things?
Yep.
Didn't we
And
buy
another
one?
one. And another one is Wayne's show on We Suck at Radio is dedicated to TDS. Those are both from Jared. Thank you, Jared.
But yeah, but that's what they should have. That PowerPoint presentation I attended, it was excellent. It was excellent. And
Yeah, but Jared's got a good point there because we did buy all those graffiti removal machines. I haven't seen them used. Have you?
Well, we got graffiti machines. We got every bell and whistle.
We got
hey, listen, CJ. We even bought a building once and forgot we had it.
That's right. Remember that?
Then they found it. And
without
when they found it, it was rotted away.
That's right.
Oh shit, that's right. We bought a building. Oh, who? I don't know who else in real life do you buy buildings that you forget about? I don't know. I don't. Do you buy machines? I bought a radial arm saw. You think I forget it? When I want to saw a piece of wood, I didn't forget I got the radial arm saw. It's like, okay, when you buy stuff, you remember you got it. City buys stuff, they stick it in there. And then they ignore anything that's good advice. My letter about the health care and the letter about what they've done with, the letter about what they did with trash pickup. Yeah,
hey,
I
must be lucky we're not in the greater Boston area. They've got no trash pickup in the greater Boston area.
Well, thank you for the comment. We did have a good 4th of July. I had my hot dogs one day.
We had steak, hot dogs, and hamburgers.
And yesterday I had my steak.
Yep.
Yesterday I had my steak. Yesterday was steak day. Sunday was the steak day. I closed out the 4th of July weekend with a nice top sirloin. So,
there you go.
So that was it. So it was a good 4th, except for the fireworks with the dog and stuff. The dogs don't like fireworks, and I've got imbeciles in my neighborhood blowing off giant, not little firecrackers, but these giant M80s and stuff at 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, hey,
tell me about it.
Screw my neighbors. 1 o'clock in the morning. I hate to say it, and I'm gonna sound cruel, but every once in a while, I just hope that a few of them blow their fingers off. Maybe they teach them a lesson. Boo, I got no fingers. Well, that's what happens. Fireworks are illegal, stupid, in this state. So if you're blowing them off, you deserve, it's, and they don't care, but they have no consideration for anything. And you and I are going to be doing a dive. We're going to try to find out, and we know it's going to be difficult to find out. We have come up with a theory. As I'm driving by some of these buildings that have been totally rehabbed, 3-deckers, totally rehabbed, and I mean gutted. And I knew people who lived in these, especially in the Flint neighborhood on Eastern Avenue. And I look at the occupants, and you can tell they're not from Fall River.
That's right.
And you can also tell that they're not from Newton or Wellesley either.
That's right.
I'm wondering, and CJ and I are wondering, and we're going to see, because remember, Maura Healey said to people that she was going to get all the illegals out of the hotels, but she didn't say where she was going to put them.
That's right. And remember, market rate rents are $2,500 a month. That's cheaper than she was paying for at the hotels.
That's right.
For one room.
That's right. And I want to, we're not going to, this idea was fostered by we have a lot of people. So I had a few people that I know who go to get their hair done in Taunton. And they were in the hair salon, and the people who work there were complaining about they think Maura Healey's moving these illegals into their market rate housing.
Right.
So I said, you know something? I think you're right.
That makes perfect sense. HDIP tax credits, local TIF tax credits. Okay. Ignoring people's complaints about market rate housing that they need more affordable.
And if we can corroborate that, and we can get it, my next call is going to be to Tom Holman. I'm going to say, Tom, bring them down. Come on. We'll bring the lemonade and cold water for your ICE agents. Let's hit them. Put Maura in jail because she is aiding and abetting illegals by doing
That's right.
this. Put Maura in jail. And while we're talking about housing, CJ, tell them about what this massive, huge city. It's unbelievable because this place was gigantic. What did they just do with affordable housing?
East Greenwich?
East Greenwich, Rhode Island.
Yep. 63 affordable housing units. They opened the doors to it today. 63. And they have what? 18,000, 25,000 people?
Jamestown had 50 some years. I'm going to check it right now. I used to drive through East Greenwich when I worked in Rhode Island. We'll look it up right now. Okay, I'll go to I always use the same. See, I don't deviate. This one's even worse because I know East Greenwich is a small town. Population, 14,312.
Woo!
14,000, even smaller than Jamestown, 15,000.
Right.
Smaller than Somerset. And do you realize that this town of 14,000 people has just built 10 times the amount of affordable housing than Paul has in his 6 years in office?
That's right.
More than 10 times.
What's their median income in East Greenwich?
I'm sorry?
What's their median income?
Hang on. I'm in here. Let's see. Population, character, housing. Owner occupied 82%. Family and living arrangements. Education. 97.9%. 98% high school graduates. Nearly 70% college. The economy, poverty. Median household income 149,577. Um, per capita income 77,660, and a 5% poverty rate versus a 21% poverty rate in Fall River.
And
And that,
they feel affordable housing is more important than market rate.
yes, when virtually none of them
Qualify.
5% of their population is living in poverty, and they're building housing for these people and other people with an income like this, which is 2.5 times what our per capita is, and 3 times what our household income is. So, I mean, again, Paul Coogan it doesn't give a damn, never gave a damn, and anybody that goes and regurgitates that crap about we've got enough housing. No, we don't have enough housing for the people who can't afford it, because they don't understand affordable housing again. It's about public housing, which is very poor, and then there's a waiting list. Workforce housing, which is area based, and they don't have the income to qualify. So they're basically left in the middle. And it's the same thing with Maura Healey. She's talking about building more housing. We're having a housing crisis. Well, Maura Healey doesn't build real affordable housing. They've created their HDIPs and everything else to subsidize the richest of the rich, who want only 2 classes, the rich and the poor. But, what are you going to do? All you can do is vote these people out. On a state level, hopefully in the next state election, we'll have candidates against our reps, because our reps are useless. All they do is nod their head and do whatever the speaker tells them, or Paul. And they're all.
I've been speaking to a conservative who is giving serious consideration to running for Carol Fiola's seat.
Good.
I said the same thing.
Good. Remember, Dave Steinoff in his first run against Carol beat her in Fall River.
That's right.
If you go door to door, there are a lot of people that are not happy with her. They know what she is, but they don't have but he didn't work Freetown and the Sonnet, and he got beat because she dominated those areas. You got to work the whole. Got to work the whole
district.
Got to work the whole district, and you got to get those small towns. That's like years ago when I was part of Westport. Remember when they had?
I remember that.
Yeah, and when Eddie Lambert was a rep, Eddie Lambert's house was in his own district because that's why he ran. Eddie's house where he grew up is right behind my house. His mother's still there, and he lived on the opposite side. They owned the property on the opposite side too, both sides on the south side of my property, and that was part. But Westport played a big part in who got elected, because Fall River did not carry that. You had to get votes in Westport.
That's right.
And now it's mostly all Westport. There's a little bit of Fall River.
It's a very sliver.
They gerrymandered it. They gerrymandered.
Yes, they did.
But hopefully, run for it. You got my vote.
Got mine.
My district. I'm in that district now. You got one vote already. So anybody but I'm thinking of running one of the robots right in. Right in.
I had a conversation about those too.
Yeah.
I was told that we should have them mass produced and start selling them.
Yeah.
As a fundraiser for their opposition.
There you go. Have these little stress dolls. Every time they screw up in their office, you can squeeze them. But this is quite a little. This is something we got to name them though. We should have like little names on them. Like we these two I've named. They it it is Brad and Paul,
Yep.
but Brad and Paul are now guarding my desktop at all times. They
They don't do
review it.
anything else.
That's all they do. And this is about as much as they open their mouth here. This is about what they do at the council, except in rare instances. But this is what they do best. Yes,
Yep.
yes, yes, and that's what they do. And quickly, let me shift back to school. Uh, that you notice that has been buried deep about the affair of the school teacher,
Yep.
and
We've got the document.
also I will be meeting with someone who had a sexual harassment complaint. I will not divulge any information unless I get permission to. But we've got Tommy Curry being convinced to run again because we need somebody that lies about everything. Oh, everything's
That's
beautiful.
right.
There's no complaints. There's no anything. There's
Did
no.
you notice what I put in the weekend flush about a certain church pastor
Yeah,
and his big mouth?
that's true. Yeah,
And
yeah,
which I believe that anyone that's actually witnessed it should call the IRS and report it. Because
yeah,
this pastor keeps running his mouth saying you need to vote for Joe Camara and Tom Corey because they're members of his parish. And they
yeah.
give lots of money.
And I'm not sure. And the problem is there is a major conflict of interest with making that statement because his church is making a lot of money from the city of Fall River.
They were.
They were, yeah, but they did.
As a matter of fact, the pastor came out and asked if anyone knows anyone that wants to lease the small school, they need the money. And they need it as soon as possible. They were getting something like $12,000 a month.
Yeah,
for that
even when there weren't students there.
Exactly. Year round.
Year round. Even in the summer when there were no students there.
Right.
Listen, I'm not sure about you would be more about the clerical, there's a separation between church and state. Now, there is a conflict of interest if your parish was making money, and they did a lot of money. And when he was making those statements, they were still making money. Right. They no longer make it now, but he made it when they were getting money from the city of Fall River. Right. Now, I know that's not ethical. It may be illegal, but as far as the church is concerned, that's not a Roman Catholic church. It's a Maronite church.
Right.
It's a Maronite rite. So I'm not sure what the Maronite rite that would have to say about that. And
I know what the IRS has to say about it.
And I wouldn't know what the IRS would say, but I can tell you one thing: if I was a council candidate or a school committee candidate, because there's one of each, one council, one school committee, right, I would be filing some inquiries and some inquiries about that.
Right.
Because, and listen, you have the freedom to vote for anybody you want. And you have the freedom to personally advocate for anybody you want. But you can't use, to me, the bully pulpit, whether it's a political bully pulpit, because political endorsements when you're in your capacity as a politician you can't do it. You can't be selling tickets and collecting money in City Hall. I don't believe you should be able to do that if you're a cleric. If you're in a church, the church should be there for the religious functions, not to be a political vehicle to endorse people. That person is a member of your parish. Let him stand outside the parish and shake everybody's hand. kiss their ass and slap their babies. Oh, I got that backwards. I'm sorry. But let them do that. That's fine to me. But when you use your position, that's why you're prohibited from using your power. If you have rank, that's why you can lose your pension if you use a superior position as an employee. You can lose your public pension if you use your superior position as a public employee to take advantage of a subordinate. You can get your pension pulled. I don't believe that people should abuse, that, you want to say it? They're in Newport Creamery virtually every day of the week. He's in Newport Creamery virtually every day of the week having breakfast. Tell everybody at Newport Creamery who you support.
That's right.
I don't care. But in the church, in City Hall, in public buildings, it is prohibited in public. Although
right.
In Fall River we ignore it anyway. We know
That's right.
That we ignore all the laws. So.
You're not going to tell me that city employees inside of government center aren't selling fundraising tickets for political candidates, more especially Paul. The problem has always been that every time they find someone willing to step forward and talk about it, they either A, get fired, or B, threatened with getting fired. And so all of a sudden they know nothing. Happens all the time.
It's just
under the Lambert administration, it was worse. Under the Lambert administration, it was worse.
Yeah. But it's bad here. I don't know if it was worse. I never heard of anybody being told that they were going to be accused of kidnapping just to get rid of them, to scare them. That's a pretty serious charge. Kidnapping is basically a pretty serious. You're looking at serious. I mean, it was nothing more than a crock. I mean, but it is what it is, and we can't say enough about how important it is to get to the next election. We're going to have to get out in the next election. Let's hope.
What has to happen is, do you remember the old days? Because remember, Ryan has promised that he would provide transportation to the polls to all those people who were disenfranchised by moving the polls. Remember he said that? I've yet to see them do it once. But back in the day, the candidates used to provide transportation. Remember? Pick them up, take them to the polls, take them home. Used to happen all the time. That's what we need. We need to get back to basics. We need to go back to knocking on doors.
Well, I agree totally with that, CJ. I agree totally with that because, in the old days, you used to get transportation to the polls. And this is what you need, and you need people in your organization to make sure you get the vote out. That's the key. They don't track anymore.
I have recently obtained some unverifiable information. Paul, I hope you're listening. It has come to my attention that the elections office is already dipping into the poll worker funds to have people who are usually poll workers work in the elections office. Don't they have enough freaking people working there? Seems that nobody does anything in that office. They got to bring more people who are poll workers in.
Oh, you need a lot of people to stuff the boxes.
Yeah.
I don't know how we managed to. And this Thursday, I will see the former director.
Elections commissioner.
She goes to every meeting. They had one full-time employee, one part-time employee, and her. And we had elections that had 3, 4, 5 times the amount of people voting in those elections.
That's right.
Ryan Lyons needs more help than any human being I've ever seen.
Because he doesn't work.
Yeah, but what are they like? I think the point is what you just said, CJ. What are they doing?
Right?
Because if one full timer and one part timer could run that office and they'd hire a few during the election, of course, why do they need? He's already got 7 people in that office.
But wait, it gets even better. We know. Remember how we used to check in and check out when we voted? We don't have to check out anymore. There's no more checkouts. So that's 2 less workers right there. Sometimes 3.
Yeah, I know. The last time I voted, I was like wandering around, waiting, looking for the desk where I had to check out. And
You don't have
there's
to
no
check out. You
desk.
just put your ballot in and leave. And
Okay.
so even requiring less people in the polls, we have more people working in the polls. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, we need. Yeah, we have less accountability without that than we had before. We need more accountability. And the only good thing, that's why I always like to vote live at the election, because when I walk in, I don't have to identify myself. They go, "Oh, here he is." Ah, jeez. You know, but then I have to still give them my name and my address. But they already know.
When I used to go into the poll, and Angela Foley used to work there. As soon as I walked in the door, "Hey CJ, how's it going? Good to see you. Come on over, I'll check you in." all the time, all the time, all the time.
Yeah, they've been. When I walk in, they're all like, "Oh, there he is," and they already got the page. They're already on the page.
Exactly.
Like, I walk up there and they go, "Hey, give me a name. You got to give me a name." Okay, like you don't know what it is. Okay, here's your ballot. Okay, see you later. Then like I said, this time when I went to check out, it's like, wait a minute, there's no desk over there.
Yeah, you don't have to check out anymore. So that's even fewer people you need in the polling place. But he's already spending the money.
Yeah, well, that's one good thing, though. You know, Paul always finds people who can spend money like him. They're never short. Didn't when he first get in, didn't he want like $500 million for furniture?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like he was going to turn the elections office into a Newport mansion with what he was going to pay for the furniture. You know, don't go down to the secondhand store and buy some. You buy a couple of desks. Number one, you don't need that many people in there. But I guess you needed, state of the art stuff. It's crazy, crazy.
I'm bringing up the list of candidates for school committee.
Uh-huh.
Some of these names I've never heard of before. Randy Scott Dudek. Never heard his name. Colin Dias. I don't know about him. Gloria Sadler. I know about her.
Well, we know a lot about her.
Yep. Kristen Lynn Cormier. Kevin Michael Aguiar. Mark Nathaniel Malacone. John Sylvia. Anna Riley. What?
Malacone.
Yeah, Malacone.
Isn't that the guy that was? Is he any relation to the guy that we had all the problems with?
I think so.
Oh, that's not good. Okay.
Nope. Deborah Shirley Borges. Emmanuel Monis. Chanel Joy Stewart. And Thomas Corey. That's the list.
We know who that one is. Yeah, she's on the committee. You know her very well, Jeff. You know her very well. Well, and don't forget, we got to add Tommy, and they're getting them all. He's panicking. But
yeah,
hey, listen.
Gloria, if Gloria is elected, she'll replace Mimi. Tom will keep his seat. Kevin will keep his seat. Colin will hopefully keep his seat. Okay. Anna, I'm quite sure will get elected. So
well, I hope so.
There's another opposition vote to Paul. That's why Paul's scared. He's losing his power base.
Yeah.
He's losing his power base.
Yeah, he's expanding his intimidation base.
Right.
That's what he's doing now.
And remember, he's already paid off Gloria Sadler Gloria Sadler Coleman. All right? He gave her daughter a $20,000 grant. So she owes him. She's owed him for a long time.
I don't even know if that meets the state ethics criteria.
I don't think it does.
She shouldn't be running for the committee after she's been working directly with this guy and getting jobs and grants and I don't know.
And she's been through more governmental jobs than I know what to do with.
But you know as well as I do how the ethics committee, they'll say, well, you got to just declare it and we'll review it and blah, blah,
and
blah.
they'll send me a letter that says we have a finding of no finding.
Yeah. Yeah, because this state is just a political toilet. We got a governor that's hiding illegals now, and we believe in market rate housing. This is why Fall River and that's going to be pretty well my prediction of this city is going more toward Detroit than Newton, which I knew always anyway. But It's really going to be Detroit if they're bringing in illegals and putting them in market rate housing, because now we're going to have a bunch of people that are going to be not to really contribute. All they're going to do is take.
You know what it reminds me of? You'll remember this because this was your district. Do you remember a fire call to Sunset Hill where they were roasting a pig in the basement or in the bathtub, something like that? Do you remember that call?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you another one that I responded to personally. Smelled the odor of smoke, and I went into the apartment at Sunset Hill, and they had a campfire in the middle of the floor, and they were cooking on a pot suspended over the fire.
There you go.
And I told them, you got to put that out. Well, no, you're not in Southeast Asia anymore. Then I had one in with Topper Heights, it's no longer there, but I had more roaches than I ever saw in my life, and I reported it to the Board of Health, and I felt really bad because it was on the second floor, but there was like an army of roaches running across the ceiling, dropping on our helmets and everything else. I told all the guys before I went to the station, take off all your gear, shake out your gear, check your pockets, check your boots, check everything. You bring these roaches into the station, we're never going to get rid of them. Never saw and I saw a lot of infestations at Sunset in a lot of places. But I reported, and I got a call from the Board of Health, and she said, "You said this is the worst." Because I remember there was a rice bowl under one of the beds, and you couldn't see the rice. All you could see was roaches in there. And she said, "I'm puzzled." I said, "And why are you puzzled?" She said, if that infestation was that bad, why didn't they report it? And I went, well, have you ever been to Southeast Asia? She said, no. I said, well, over there, they get dirt floors in the huts, and the roaches are extra protein.
That's it.
And they're in the pot.
That's dinner, baby. That's dinner.
But she didn't know what to say. And I said I felt really bad because there was an elderly woman that had lived in that project for 30 years and said she never had a roach before they moved in. And I said, well, it's a different culture.
Yeah.
Bugs don't bother them. People don't understand that. See, everybody thinks in an American, cockroach, whatever. It's like, yeah, roach, big deal. But, it's like extra protein in the pot. But then some cultures actually eat the bugs.
That's right.
It's true. Yeah, I know, Jeff. Oh, it sounds... Well, one of their delicacies, you remember, live monkey brains.
That's right.
They put a monkey in there, put its head in a vice, and they saw the top of the skull off, and they're eating a brain. That's what they... different culture, different tastes. Not my cup of tea,
Not mine either.
That's the last thing I want for an appetizer is a monkey brain. But,
hey... I have an announcement to make, and I want everyone who's watching, either now or in the future or whatever, do not send me attachments via Facebook Messenger. I don't open them. I don't read them. I don't open attachments. There's too many bugs out there, and I don't know if they're actually coming from you. So if you got something that you want to say to me, just say it. Don't send me an attachment to a news story on a fourth or fifth generation website or something else like that. Don't send me attachments. I would greatly appreciate it. I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Wednesday. Have a great day. And remember, America can keep you safe if you vote. Make sure you get out and vote. Thanks for watching. See you on Wednesday. I don't know what happened there.
Ooh, monkey meat.